Hello, my name is Mike Bosma. I'm a CPA, Clifton Larson Allen. In studio, we've got Kaya Bromley, who's General Counsel for Community Ventures Real Estate. We're talking all things Opportunity Zone. Kaya, I have to know, I've heard this Opportunity Zone thing. What is it? Why should I care?
Opportunity Zones are the single biggest incentive program we have ever seen in this country. It was passed as part of the Tax Bill and Jobs Act of 2017. We had proposed regs last year. We're still waiting for some final regs, but it's an incentive program that incentivizes people with capital gains to invest into low-income and rural communities.
Yeah, I remember reading those regulations. It was October 26th. I was on a plane to Minneapolis, and that's when Opportunity Zones for me came from something that was obscure to this is going to apply to every single person in the United States. So if somebody has a capital gain, like $1 million, how is that capital gain be taxed, and what happens if they do an Opportunity Zone investment?
So let's say I bought $1 million of Apple stock, and then I sold it for $2 million. I've got this $2 million of gain, and at that point I have to make the choice to pay the capital gains tax, which is CPA,
right? $1 million in gains is going to be $200,000 in tax.
Or I can decide to put it into a qualified opportunity zone fund within 6 months. Then when I do that, I get a deferral of that gain up until the end of 2026.
Right.
But that's
8 years, right?
8 years.
And that's where a lot of people that I've talked to, Kaya, they confuse this Opportunity Zone thing with like-kind exchanges. So in your example, you're $1 million in basis in Apple stock. You can keep that. You only need to invest the $1 million of gain. 1031 exchange, you got to do the whole thing. Okay. So now you're like, okay, I'm going to put my $1 million of gain in, and what do I buy? What qualifies? What works?
So it can be a business, it can be real estate, it can be raw land, it can be an improvement on land.
Okay.
The key is that you have to substantially improvement. You can't just park your money and leave it there. You have to make a substantial improvement, and that's why it's going to make such a big difference in these low-income and rural communities.
Right, because they're going to, like we did in this building, they're going to have to redo the entire building and double down on the improvements.
Exactly.
So how long do I have to hold this investment?
So first there's this deferral and a discount.
Right.
I call it a discount.
Gotcha, because this $1 million of gain, $200,000 in tax, instead of investing $800,000, invest the whole $1 million. When do I have to pay tax and
So at the end of 2026, you have to pay on the first gain, but you have a discount on that gain.
Gotcha.
Then once you hold it for 10 years, then whatever your gain is after that, after you sell it, there's zero tax. So as an example,
Right. So that's why when we think about that, let's say in 10 years now my whatever I invest in is worth $5 million. Right. So I pay my $170,000 in tax in 8 years. But then that $5 million, how much is that taxed at?
It's zero. It's
Tax-free.
100% tax-free.
Tax-free.
That's why this is so massive.
Gotcha.
And now this is a bipartisan bill because it's using private money to solve some public issues. And of course, it's going to be a great thing for the investor to have this tax-free money. But think of the things that are going to be fixed, especially in Reno in particular, where we have a housing shortage. Right. This money is going to be used to create affordable housing, to change, cities.
But that's where, if I sold my Apple stock, that was an easy investment. I went to my Schwab broker, bought the Apple stock. Building property, maybe people could easily get overwhelmed with that whole concept. You started this task force. What was the premise behind the task force?
So the premise behind the task force is there's literally trillions of dollars, analysts say $6 trillion that could be deployed during this through opportunity zones. Right. The logical places or the easy places it's going is places like LA and San Francisco and Puerto Rico. And we wanted to make sure that some of the money was attracted here. And so we created the task force, and it's a public-private partnership with developers and brokers and people from the city of Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, the governor's office. Right. And it was because there was all these different stakeholders had different interests in how we deploy money here and how do we, meet community goals and community needs. And so out of that task force, we learned about what were the issues that developers had or what the city's issues were to let developers develop. And out of that culminated a huge ton of discussions and deals. I mean, deals are getting done here because of this task force.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of people that maybe have been sitting on real estate, they have no basis in it, they sell it, they're going to pay a lot of tax. I know from a CPA perspective, if they die, they get to step up in basis, then they can sell it for zero tax. So they're sitting on a lot of really quality property. It definitely needs some love. Mm-hmm. This, I think, will allow them to say, I can sell this, roll that gain or into my next project, and then literally people across the street from each other is like, hey, I'll buy you yours, you buy mine, we'll improve them both. There's capital out there, there's people that want to invest in these zones, and hopefully that's going to raise the entire standard in northern Nevada.
Yeah, and we're going to see every size of deal. We're going to see deals that are 40 million, 100 million, and then we're going to see someone that literally has the $1 million gain that self-certifies. They don't need, to do this big, pooling money together. So we're going to see every kind of development here.
Right, and so there's a summit that's coming up. How is that going to make all that magic happen?
So there's summits and conferences happening all over the country, and the reason is because they work. They are becoming the epicenter of deal making because it's so new that, it's like masterminding. You've got to bring all these people together to do deals. So I've been speaking at some across the country, and every single time I do one, I've met someone else that I need to call because this deal needs money, Right. So we wanted to bring the money here to Reno and to northern Nevada, not just Reno, and to support our local goals. So the summit, a lot of it talks not specific, it's just all opportunity zones in general, but there's a big focus on our issues here, which are we have a housing shortage because we have so much growth. We're the number one jobs growth in the country is Reno, Nevada. Right. And so what that's doing,
and believe me, we all feel it.
Yeah, yeah. And so we need workforce housing, we need affordable housing, and there's still plenty of land there. Right. Even though one of the misnomers is that even though it's targeting the opportunity zones, there's 8,700 of them across the country, and they're low income and rural. They're not always places you wouldn't want to build. Like downtown Reno is all amazing, and it's all opportunities.
No, I remember when I landed, when I was reading up on the regulations last October, I'm like, I'm going to corner the market. And I looked at San Diego, and the entire Gaslamp district is an opportunity zone. The entire Virginia corridor, straight through middle of downtown, opportunity zone. I-80 along the Truckee River, all opportunity zones. Significant parts of Sparks, all of Story County. Right. There's big swaths of very desirable places. And when Governor Sandoval certified these, I think there was a real intention on where do we want the development to happen, and I think that's why there's opportunity.
And the key to this too is that the opportunity is not just for the big developer or the big landowner. It's for the attorney that wants to do the work for this, or the CPA or the construction company or the broker. I mean, brokers are going to do so well during this. So when this growth happens in any community, it's going to trickle down and affect every part of that community.
Yeah, and that's where it's the other thing that has been interesting to talk about real estate deals, but there's also the ability to invest in a business. So talk to me about that. Business
deals actually could end up being bigger than real estate deals, because if you think about, for an example, let's say that Google started in an opportunity zone, right? Whatever that startup money was, then after 10 years, they, whatever they did to dispose of it, that's one of the things we're waiting for in the final regs. But whatever they did, that gain, which would be 4 million times what the original basis was, would be tax-free completely. So one of the things that the biggest opportunity out there is going to be a real estate and business play together, where someone does a building, puts in a bunch of startups, buys stock in all the startups. So they're getting the sure deal of the real estate with the rent. But then they've got all of these more speculative deals where they might put in 20 and 19 might fail, but that one that does it. So yeah, it's the opportunity is unfathomable.
Well, and that's where, to your point, the Kauffman Foundation says, if you're going to be an angel investor, you got to spread that out. And they say minimum you have to do 10 deals. 7 of the 10 are going to go to zero. Well, the beauty of doing those opportunity zone deals, now I don't pay tax on 70% of that $1 million, so hypothetically we've been talking about. I'll make my money back on 2, and then the one's going to be a grand slam, 10x. Right. Well, now instead of paying 85% of the tax in 8 years, I'm actually paying 10% of the tax in 8 years. And I still get the tax free on the one that hit. And other cities have really taken off on this. What are other cities doing that we should?
So there's a lot of cities that have started task forces like ours, and they're making a huge difference. One of the biggest ones, though, is the cities that have started to automate the licensing and entitlement process, so that when developers come in, they don't have a hard time, because there's time frames. In order to do this, the developer or the investor has to place their money within 180 days of realizing the gain. So with some nuances, but so they have to get things done quickly, and so the cities have to be willing to work with people and want them to come there. They can't have this attitude of no, don't do it here, because the investors are going to go somewhere else.
Right, the capital will go where the least impediment to success would be. So because there's a 6-month time frame, there's also a 30-month time frame.
Yes.
What's that about?
So let's say you buy the new property with your $1 million of capital gain. You have 30 months to deploy the capital. Now that doesn't mean on the 29th month you can go dump the capital in.
Because there's these testings along
right,
the way.
All along the way, exactly. Because that was and we're expecting with the final regs, they really do want to make this work. They're not trying to create a bunch of booby traps to make it really difficult. So they came up with a 30-month rule in the first round of regs. We're expecting that to be cleared up too. But it makes it easier for someone to be able to deploy the capital as it goes, and that means that they can also be getting more capital as they go. So they might only have a certain amount to invest at first. They might stack debt with it. They might get other investors, and they might have some money that's capital gains and some not capital gains.
Yeah, because I guess as a real estate investor myself, I just know there's like an inflection point where it's really worth as much as it's going to be worth. Like kind of through lease up, right?
Yeah.
So what if I deploy my capital in opportunity zone, but then I kind of see this great opportunity, deal I can't pass up, and I sell before that 10 years? Am I just done?
No, the one option is you pay the capital gain.
Pay the tax.
And so you just know that if it's a good enough deal, you're not going to care.
Right.
Like there's a biotech company that I'm working with that there's probably a good chance that they might get bought, and it's going to be so many billions of dollars that they're going to be like, I'm okay, I'm okay. But there's also an option to invest within another deal within an opportunity zone. So there's a lot of nuances there. And you bring up a really good point, though. There's attorneys and CPAs like us. We're doing this question and answer, but we do this all the time. That know this and do this, and so this is not one of those times that people should go to their niece who's a lawyer who actually does family law and say, figure this out. This is complicated tax law, and while on the one hand they're making it easy with the self-certification, on the other hand you screw up one or two things and you've bumped yourself out of the whole incentive. So
yeah, and that's where it's interesting. I've got hundreds of hours into this. The legislation and regulations and the nuances of it. I know other people in my firm have done the same. And you one misstep and now you don't qualify, which is unfortunate. But coming back to my original question, so I sell it 5 years, I can sell the capital gain. But I've got other people that are saying, hey, I can also redeploy that capital if that liquidated. I can also redeploy that and make it its own opportunity zone. So So that's where I think there's a lot of options. You got to work with people that kind of know the nuances and ins and outs, how to make the magic happen.
Yeah, and also it's like knowing the theory as opposed to understanding the deal. So we all read the regs and we know it, but it's not until you actually do a deal where you learn all the interplay of like stacking incentives. That's a big thing too. Is you can stack new market tax credits, low income housing tax credits, and do a deal that way. So there's a lot of moving parts with this.
Yeah, and that's where one of the things we're trying to do to get the word out is Opportunity Zone Summit. So what's up with that?
Yes, so we are doing that because we want to just bring all this notoriety. We've got Steve Glickman, who's going to be our keynote speaker, which is a huge deal. He's actually the chief architect of Opportunity Zone program, which is a bipartisan bill, which is a big deal. And it's and we brought really the who's who around the country to speak at this. We're going to be taking. We're going to take it from beyond theory to actual examples. Throughout the whole summit, we're going to have examples of actual deals that have been done. What do I do if I bought my project pre-2018? How do I restructure it? Can I restructure it? There's also this whole network of developers now across the country. We're calling it shuffling the deck. People who bought pre-2018 and who are selling to each other the underlying project.
I'll buy yours, you buy mine.
Yeah, but
then
staying
we'll
on
finish
as but staying on as their own developer because they know their project. I mean, that's a whole new market that didn't exist before this, and we're just going to see more new products, new markets, new ideas. And it all happens when people are masterminding at a summit like that.
It really just takes a village. And so when's the summit? How do you sign up?
So it's March 19th and 20th, and you sign up at renozonesummit.com.
So I will be there. I know you will be as well.
We'll be there. We're moderating, and we've got an amazing lineup. We're going to go through everything from affordable housing. How do you do an affordable housing project? Because that's a whole different animal. How do you do that in an opportunity zone? We're going to talk about stacking incentives. We're going to deep dive into the regs. We're going to do actual deals on stage with our guest panelists, Steve Glickman, Olivia Burns. These people are all going to be panelists.
Matt Drennan from CLA is going to be there, and He's really an incentive guy.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I'm excited to see those deals, and they've already coming out of the woodwork. People, they have their project. Hey, how do I get my project funded? It's the one time in Northern Nevada I can say we really have come together as a community, and people said, how can we make this better? And they're not necessarily needing to maximize every dollar, because if it's a good deal for them, it's got to be the good deal for the guy across the table from them.
And one of the best things that's going to come, it's already coming out of it just during the planning, is the actual deals happening.
Right.
So we're providing lots of networking opportunities, and then especially to the sponsors, we're connecting them right in with whatever it is they need. We have a huge network across the country of everyone doing funds, deals, everything that you can think of. And we have a VIP cocktail hour with these panelists, with Steve Glickman, with all these key people for the sponsors.
So for the price of a ticket, I can go talk to the foremost experts in the country.
Exactly.
I don't have to fly to LA, like you spoke in LA, spoke in New York.
Yep.
I don't have to fly to LA. Just for the price of a ticket,
Yep.
I can go speak to the foremost experts.
Exactly.
Well, isn't that convenient?
I know, right? It's gonna be the best. I know that we planned it, so I'm a little biased, but I really do think it's gonna be the best summit that has happened so far.
Well, I'm looking forward to co-moderating with you, and if nothing else, I know we're gonna have a good time, get a lot of deals done.
Yes, definitely. Not only that, though, we've got the Tesla, Google, blockchain stuff going on too. Dude.
But wait, there's more.
This is a big deal, though. This is a big deal. So, so the General Council of Blockchains is the very last panel. You know, we're doing a lot that's just opportunity zones. The very last panel of the day brings it back to Nevada. And we have such massive growth here with the Tesla Gigafactory. And a lot of people might not know this, but the incentive program that Tesla got to get all these tax incentives, they had to create a certain number of jobs and a certain number of, all their vendors have to live here and have to work here.
Yeah, they can't just be buying stuff from somewhere else. And so the Governor's Office of Economic Development, who's participating in the task force, they said, no, we want to make sure that there's real value coming here.
And so the trickle down of that is that there's so much opportunity for industrial flex development, housing, retail, everything. So they're all very much a part of this summit. So blockchains, Reno Land, probably the largest opportunity zone developer in Northern Nevada.
Doing
Not
the whole
probably.
Park Lane
Definitely.
project, right?
Park Lane developers and Ranchera. And Mike Krasmersky from EDON. And we've got a couple other people on that panel, but that one is going to bring it all home just before we get into the VIP. So it's really going to explain all of the nuances that people here know, but people who are from outside and want to get involved in this game, that's going to be the golden ticket. And then to hook up with those people afterwards and talk about those deals, that's a key thing that we're providing.
You were just kind of talking about the tour. So for the people that for the next day on the 20th that want to go out to Reno Industrial Center and kind of get the backstory on how all that came together, the projects that are out there, because you look at the blockchain video, it's kind of hard to get your mind around what even they're doing until you see it. Then you're like, okay, I see where they're going. And then they're also doing this tour of downtown Reno. What's the purpose of that?
So the purpose of that is to see. So all of this area we're talking about, Tesla, Google, Switch, blockchain, all an opportunity zone. All of Story County is an opportunity zone. It's just it's massive. Like there's no other state in the country that has what we have. And people are starting to realize it. I mean, it's huge. So it's to let them see that so that they understand, what opportunities are there, but then also to come to see downtown because Reno, has not had a great reputation in the past, and it used to be based on casinos and they were getting run down. It's a small part of our revenue now. There's other places where jobs come from. So we really want people to see what's going on in Reno.
And to see some deals down there, right?
Yes,
some of those projects that are maybe a little long in the tooth, and some of those casinos that have already been renovated into housing. And I think mixed use is a big kind of buzzword now, and to be able to kind of see firsthand where those opportunities are, and ideally connect developers with investors and make that magic happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So renozonesummit.com. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.